ESPN had one of their largest talent layoffs ever. Reportedly, nearly 20 on-air personalities and anchors were notified Thursday night, Friday, that they would no longer be a part of the worldwide leader in sports. Some have already announced their departure via social media. A lot of it came out through a New York Post article. Just to read off a couple of the names, you're going to know a lot of these people. Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Jeff Van Gundy, Susie Colbert, Matt Hasselbeck, Todd McShay. I'm hearing Steve Young, LaFonso Ellis, Ashley Brewer, David Pollock, Jason Fitz, Jordan Cornette, and June Lee, to name some of the many on-air personalities that got the boot from ESPN. They are not playing any games right now. Obviously, I have a lot of thoughts on ESPN's decision-making and the future of this business. A business, by the way, that I'm in. I'm still young, I'm 29, but definitely a concerning day. I think this was a big day in sports media, and I'm going to explain it to you probably about a 20-minute video here, what I thought about ESPN's latest layoff, because I think it was a very important day for sports media. And I think any young journalist in the business, you probably want to watch this video and definitely pay attention to what's happening in the sports media landscape. If you're thinking about getting into this world, I want you to understand what you're signing up for, all right? So to start here, when I was working at ESPN as an intern, the president was a gentleman by the name of John Skipper. All right, John Skipper, think the Adam Silver of Disney. From what I was told, I never met John, but I definitely worked with some personalities, some of the biggest personalities at ESPN that clearly had relationships, personal relationships with John, do dinner with him. I think even go to his house or whatever in Connecticut. I knew people that had relationships with John Skipper, and they tell me, yo, this dude is a good dude. He was a player-friendly commissioner, but he was the president of ESPN. Think Adam Silver of ESPN, right? John had to resign from ESPN. I think that was around 2018. He got caught up in a cocaine extortion situation. He had a cocaine habit. Like, he's talked about it. I'm not breaking news to you. John had to step down. And since then, a gentleman by the name of James Patero has stepped up and become the new president of ESPN. I don't know a lot about James either, but I can tell you this. From outside looking in, he seems to be about his business. He doesn't have the years of relationships, it appears, with a lot of these talents that obviously John had. So it's more of a just business approach with Patero. He is just cleaning house. If it doesn't make sense, you're not going to justify it, he's going to get you up out of there. That's what I'm seeing. Because you got to think, from my vantage point, I've already known about ESPN laying people off this time around because I have friends that recently got the boot from ESPN. I've been super sad on LinkedIn seeing people that I, care for get the boot from the worldwide leader. So we knew a talent layoff was coming. We just didn't know when. Now, why are we here with this talent layoff? Because if you look at some of these names, I'm going to go through them real quick. I mean, a guy like Jalen Rose, I don't understand that one because what I'm about to say about some of these other talents, I don't think this applies to Jalen Rose. I don't think this is applicable at all to him. I think Jalen Rose has done a good job of creating his own brand. I mean, he's a tall, attractive gentleman. To me, he crosses a lot of T's, dots a lot of I's. And he's got his own podcast. Jalen had some big guests on it. I mean, look, I don't know behind the scenes about Jalen or any of these talents that got the boot. My guess is maybe the cost of production that Jalen maybe had for his podcast or something along the lines of that maybe became too much for ESPN. That's my only guess. I don't know. But I'm looking at a guy like Max Kellerman. I knew his days were numbered. He got fired the day Stephen A. didn't want to work with him at First Take. Everybody knew his days were numbered. Give ESPN credit. They tried to, put Max on different programming. They put him on like the Sports Center, the This Is Now Sports Center show. They gave him his own radio show with Jay Williams and Keyshawn Johnson. But if we're being honest, I mean, that show was trash. I'm not trying to look. I don't know none of them guys. It wasn't a good product. It just wasn't a good product. I mean, coming in behind Mike and Mike, trying to find a void for that morning programming, it's been a struggle for ESPN. They let him go, and they let Keyshawn go. And I heard Jay Williams' contract is up. I don't know what's his situation. We'll see. Hopefully the brother keeps his job. I'm never rooting for anybody to lose their job. Jeff Van Gundy is an interesting one. If it were me personally, obviously without knowing the other, the contracts and all that, I would have assumed Mark Jackson to get the boot before Jeff. I believe Jeff Van Gundy brings more to a broadcast than Mark does. You're not going to let Mike Breen go. He's phenomenal at his job. He's doing play-by-play. I would have thought Mark would have got the boot before Jeff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can go into some race dynamic. I don't know. But that's a shocker to me. Jeff and Mark have been kind of like pump faking like the last 7-8 years with interviews for head coaching spots. We'll see if Jeff Van Gundy will now return to the sidelines with ESPN letting him go. That was an interesting decision right there. I mean, we can go through this list of guys. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Todd McShay. Prayers to him. Some of these guys. David Pollock is a guy that I worked with that, he was with College Game Day. I could understand that one. Matt Hasselbeck was really good at his job. I worked with him as well. Matt was a really nice guy. I mean, I was an intern just making highlights for him. He was a really nice guy. But a couple times I worked with him. But, I mean, look, ESPN is letting you know this because we got to talk about some stuff here. ESPN is saying, 3 things. Number 1, we are tired of getting our butts kicked digitally. We are the worldwide leader in sports. Why in the hell is Shannon Sharpe running circles around us digitally? Let's call a spade a spade. It is tough to get a 12-year-old kid, a 14-year-old kid, a 18-year-old kid, a 21-year-older to tune in to 40 and 50-year-old men talking sports in the middle of the day. It's tough in today's world with all the phones. I'm going to get into some other stuff at the end of this video about content creation, how it's impacted the landscape of stuff. It's tough to get teens and younger adults to tune in. Shannon Sharpe has been able to do it at an elite level. Them kids will watch Shannon. And all the old school references, I think the new school likes him, right? And I think ESPN is looking around like, we got all this technology. From my vantage point, they pretty much allow their talents to, have their way with whatever they want to do pretty much from a standpoint of podcasts, all that. You can really go get it at ESPN. It's on you. What do you value more? Being a family person or what? What? Like, you can hustle as much as you want. You can put them hours in at ESPN for what I remember. Like, I'm assuming ESPN, they didn't like the way Shannon Sharpe was beating the hell out of them in these ratings department. I mean, or with the kids. I mean, Shannon Sharpe is somebody that the kids love digitally. He does really good numbers online. I don't know if ESPN is going to bring in Shannon Sharpe. I'm just throwing it out there. Obviously, we got to state another elephant in the room. Pat McAfee is coming. I want you to understand that. Reportedly on an $85 million deal, Pat McAfee is coming to ESPN this fall for football season, and he's going to be the biggest entity there. Pat is a guy that, following his NFL career, he built his own. He got a team, he started shooting stuff, and now there's nobody that Pat can't get on his show throughout the season. I mean, you got coaches that are literally getting fired and coming on Pat's show the next day. Aaron Rodgers literally comes on Pat's show every week. That's a big deal. Aaron Rodgers is arguably the biggest athlete in the sport. These are things that I've been talking about for a while now. When you look at Pat McAfee and what does Pat McAfee do, right? Pat McAfee relates to middle of America. He's an Indianapolis Colts fan. He relates to middle. He's a guy. Let's call it space, but he's a white guy that you probably want to get a drink with. He's the annoying, obnoxious white guy that's going to talk your head off about sports. And that really, translate to a lot of America. Just like Shannon Sharpe feels like your black uncle. These things correlate well in America. Pat McAfee built his own team, and they got all the leverage in the world. And I think ESPN's looking around like, look at these numbers, bro. Why the hell are we paying all these people when Pat McAfee and his team, they're whooping ass. Like, they're whooping ass on digital views. We got all these subscribers. Everybody's got to tune in to us at night for the sports because we got the live programming. We got Monday Night Football. We got the NHL playoffs. We got the NBA throughout the season. Wait, we get a head start at night. People's TVs are left on ESPN 1, 2 at night. But we're still too close with FS1's Undisputed, Collins the Herd, the Dan Patrick Show. These shows should not be anywhere near us in the ratings. So I definitely think you look at what Shannon's been able to do, what Pat's been able to do, and I even go a step further. Adrian Wojnarowski really set the tone for this. A lot of people don't remember what Woj had created over with The Vertical and Yahoo. They had to buy Woj's whole team to go to ESPN. I think that's the new wave. That's one of the reasons why I continue to grind it out with what I'm doing, because I see the wave. You get one face of something, and it could be a reporter face, it could be an on-air personality face, it could be a former player turned personality. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but what you do is get that face and you go get a team of guys that maybe don't have any experience in media at all. Maybe get a producer that's got a little experience, but go get a team and build with them. Start it somewhere out of a basement, a house, and just build and build and build. That's why I do it this way. You know, and ESPN, once they feel like you got enough power and clout in the culture, they gonna come call it. I mean, that's to me the general basic concept of how we got here today. Again, I don't think Jalen Rose really fit into this realm. I thought Jalen Rose did a good job of branding himself. For example, he had the Ja Morant interview after Ja got suspended. To me, that's content. That's going out and getting a special interview that nobody else could get. Another thing with Patero, he doesn't seem to be a political guy. He don't give a damn what you believe in. Whether you're far left or far right, we ain't gonna do it on ESPN. You know, so I think some of those things lend us to the spot that we're at today. I mean, the fact that the economy is bad is also another reason why we're here, where ESPN's got to make a lot of layoffs. But I do believe a lot of this is ESPN saying, look, we got all this technology. We pay all this money for content. Some of you talent out there, y'all are literally doing the bare minimum and going home. And we got a guy like Pat McAfee and his crew that are beating y'all ass in these numbers. Shannon Sharpe is beating y'all ass in these numbers. That's just how you got to tell the truth about it. Shannon Sharpe doing his Club Shay Shay podcast. You know, he's a free agent. He might land at ESPN after all these layoffs. He's doing the Club Shay Shay podcast. So he's able to get those digital views there. He's much more culturally relevant than most of the talent that I just named that got laid off. And also Shannon Sharpe was on there with Skip Bayless, one of their talents that they built up, right? And now you gotta sit there and watch that every day with what Shannon's been able to accomplish. I think ESPN is like, bro, hold on now. We ain't finna be, now hold on now. How are we allowing people with not even a fourth of the resources that we got here, how are we allowing them to just ridiculously do more numbers than us? Y'all lazy. I think that's what ESPN, that's my opinion on what ESPN is saying. And by the way, there are a lot of talents out there. I go look these numbers up because I'm a nerd at this stuff and I'm in the business. I feel like I should be in it. I'm beating a lot. Like, I do millions of views every month. There's never been a month where I don't do millions of views, right? What I'm looking at right now is the world change. When I was leaving ESPN, I was like, oh, this shit, everything's changing right now. Everything's changing in the business right now. And I'm looking around thinking to myself, oh, I feel good about what I'm about to build on my own. Now, I've had to struggle through some very bad times doing this on my own, you know, but look at how I'm able, look, I shoot my stuff myself. I have high-tech cameras myself. I've invested maybe $150,000, $200,000 in equipment over the 7-8 years that I've been doing this. I've did that myself. And what am I doing? I don't have to pay anybody for a camera crew. I don't have to do that. I can edit my own footage. Now, does that stop me from maybe accomplishing more throughout a day? Yes. But I'm looking at content creators like Kenny Beckham that figured it out, and he's now got some real motion. And House of Highlights is going to be a player in the game going forward. Obviously, a guy like Chris Smoove that I believe helped usher in this new wave of content creators. Look at us now. We got partnerships with the NBA. I got a partnership with BBTV and NBA. This stuff helps, right? All this stuff helps allow us to build and build and build and be brands. And ESPN, I think networks like that are looking around like, are we going to invest all this money in a 50-year-old guy that wants to go home and be with his family? Not knocking him. I'm just saying it is what it is. Are we going to invest all this money here Or are we going to make some investments in some of the talents that are showing us every day they know how to grind it out and build an audience? And I think ESPN's looking at these numbers and they're saying, man, we want some of these YouTube numbers. We want some more of that. We got too many subscribers. We got too many head starts to not have a bigger impact digitally. And I think their new president is saying enough is enough. We are cutting off some of that excess fat. I mean, a big day, again, there are a lot of different ways you could go about kind of like putting together how you think we got to this day. I mean, it's a sad day. I never want to see anybody lose their job. But definitely, man, I just think you would be an idiot to not look in the mirror and see that the sports media landscape is changing. A lot of this just comes down to who's doing numbers and who's not. And I'm looking at Stephen A. Smith even. He's got a big contract at ESPN. You think it's an accident? Have you seen Stephen A. on social media over the last month or two? He is promoting the hell out of his podcast. He is going hard at that podcast now. Somebody has let him know something. Somebody has said, yo, you need to get these numbers up some kind of, he's seen some analytics that told him and his team it's go time. And I don't think that's by shock at all. I think today was a very important day in sports media because a lot of household names got the boot. And I don't think you should just, if you're into this type of stuff, you might want to circle this day and put an asterisk by this one because I think it's only the beginning of where we're going. If you're paying attention, if you're watching content creators like me, you already know what time it is. So thank y'all so much for the support and best of luck to everybody that lost their job in the recent months from ESPN. I'm sure you guys will bounce back. All right, time, love, support is what your boy would never take for granted. I'm out.